everybody, and welcome, wanderers, to another Parallax ASMR video. Somebody recently asked me to do tapping on plastic sounds, so I scurried all over my house and grabbed some plastic things, and I'm going to make some sounds with them while I talk to you. First up, I have this, it's called the Hario V60. It's a pour-over cone for making coffee. This is not my favorite way to make coffee. I prefer French press. But I also really love coffee and am a big fan of specialty coffee and have invested a lot of time and energy and money into making better coffee at home. So I have a lot of different brewing apparati. That's probably how you say apparatus, but plural. So basically with this, you use a paper filter in the middle, a conical filter specifically made for pour-over cones like this. And you put your grounds in there, and this sits on top of your mug. And you heat up water in a separate kettle. And then you pour, it's a gooseneck kettle, so you can pour precisely. And you pour water over the grounds to bloom them and get the carbon dioxide out of the grounds. And then you let the grounds bed settle again. And then you continue pouring coffee over for usually around a minute, and then you let it soak through. And then you have a cup of coffee. The reason that this is not my favorite is because this brewing method and most pour-over brewing methods kind of highlight bright acidity, and I tend to prefer the darker, bolder flavors that you would get from brewing with French press. But I do like to mix it up. I also don't love that you use paper filters. It's kind of wasteful, but that's the Hario V60. Also related to coffee, I have this travel espresso maker. It's made of plastic so that it is lightweight. It's specifically made for backpacking. It's called the Mini Presso NS. So it's pretty cool the way it works. Basically, you take an espresso pod and you put it in this chamber here. There are needles in there, so I need to be careful. And then this has the pattern to puncture the pod on top, and then you screw that closed. And this is your coffee cup. So this attaches there for safekeeping, but it comes off and acts as your coffee cup. Then up here, now that I think of it, this might be your coffee cup. I haven't used this in a while. Up here you put your, oh no, this is not the coffee cup. Okay, you fill this with water, and then you attach it like that, and then you would brew directly into your coffee cup. So you fill this with hot water, you boil it on a turbo boiler or whatever stove you're using, or open fire you're using when you're backpacking, and then you twist this and it comes out. And then you basically create, if you don't know, espresso is made by using high pressure to force hot water through a compacted puck of finely ground coffee. In this case, you use an espresso pod, and you create pressure by pumping it like this. And then as the pressure builds, the espresso will come out of here into your cup. I tested this out a long time ago, but have not gone, well, not a long time ago, I think it was a year and a half ago, and I have not gone backpacking since then, so I actually haven't gotten a chance to use this on the trail, but it's a cool little thing that I'm pretty excited to use. Next up, I don't know how these are going to sound, but I have these plant cups. So I built a hydroponic garden system in my basement to grow vegetables and herbs in my house year-round. Which was really cool. So I made a scaffolding out of just regular 2x4s, and then I made the place where you put these plant cups out of 3-inch PVC pipe, and I glued them all together with PVC glue, and then I used a water pump, just a regular water pump made for an aquarium, to pump the water from a reservoir at the bottom up into the top of the tube, and then the tube was angled so that the water and nutrients would run through the tube and then fall back down into the reservoir at the bottom. And there were holes cut in the top of the PVC pipe, and you would put these plant cups in there. That doesn't sound very good. You would put these in there with some clay balls for support, and the roots of the plants would grow right out of here and just sit in the water. Plants don't actually need soil to survive. They need water, sunlight, or artificial sunlight, which is what I was using, and nutrients, specifically nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, NPK. And so they don't need soil, and you can grow them directly in your house without dirt. I recently took the hydroponic system apart because I'm planning on building a greenhouse outside next year. I did like the hydroponic system, but I felt like it was more work than just planting outside, so I ended up scrapping it. But it was cool while it lasted, and now I have these plant cups that make nice noises. Next up, I have these bottles of ink. These were given also got me this pen. Basically, it is, I don't know if you can see that, but it's a fountain pen. So it's much more satisfying to write with than a ballpoint pen, in my opinion. Anyway, this is not made of plastic. This is, I think it might be bamboo. But he also gave me a bunch of these plastic vials of ink. To try out with the pen, and the caps in particular, when I was looking for things to tap on for this video. The caps in particular caught my fancy, or whatever. And I have a bunch of those to try out different ink colors. In case you're interested, this is not sponsored or anything, but it is a really nice pen and it was very affordable. It's from Ranga Pens, so if you're interested, you can look for them. They're handmade pens, and I think it's a small company. So you can search for them and buy a pen if you are into fountain pens and are curious. Next up, I have this I wonder if that sounds good. I can barely hear anything in person, but maybe it sounds really cool. I also kind of wonder what it sounds like when I cover the mic and I'm whispering. Will it cut off my voice, or will it sound cool? I very well might just end up deleting that if it doesn't sound cool. Anyway, this is just a small plastic cup that we bought for Friendsgiving. My wife and I host Friendsgiving every year, like mid-November, as a pre-Thanksgiving Thanksgiving for our friends rather than our family. And these make really good tapping noises. Probably looks super weird, but I really like how it sounds with this super rapid tapping. You have to like tense your arm to do it. So it probably looks really weird, but I personally like how that sounds. Something I found weird, I played drums for many years, and I've always tapped, like everywhere I go. I mentioned in an earlier video that I have ADHD, and I think tapping is one of the things that I do to kind of occupy my mind so that I can pay attention to other things that I want to pay attention to. So I tap talking to people, when I used to sit in school, when I'm working. I'm constantly tapping, and I often tap rhythms that are just in my head. And an interesting thing that I thought about recently is most of the time tapping in ASMR videos is just random tapping, like with no rhythm at all, or no organized rhythm, I guess. And it's interesting to me that it's like that, and I wonder why. And I also wonder if there's a reason why we like the randomness, because I do prefer random over like I don't know, like a polyrhythm like that, or I wonder why that's not as satisfying to listen to. Especially because I think a big reason we like to listen to music is because we like our minds, from like a biological standpoint and perspective, we like pattern recognition, and that feels good to us. Probably because of like harsh environments and predators and things like that. But I wonder why that kind of rhythmic tapping isn't as cozy. And those are the ramblings of an ASMR artist who used to play drums. Also related to Friendsgiving, I found this silver charger that we use. This goes under the plates, and I don't know, I think it's just decoration. I don't think it serves any specific function, but I didn't know these were a thing until my wife bought them. And they do look really nice, so. But I really like, this is plastic. And on the other side, it's kind of like paper mache, I guess. It looks like paper mache. Not really paper mache, but something similar. If you look closely, you can kind of see like the lines. I don't know, maybe you can't see it. I can see it though. I do really like the noises that this makes though. Okay. Oops. Next up, I think this technically counts. This is just cellophane, or plastic wrap. I don't know if cellophane is a brand name. Maybe. But it's just plastic wrap. I really like how crinkly, how lightly crinkly plastic wrap is. is that I don't really have anything to talk about when it comes to plastic wrap. It's kind of a random thing. But that person that I mentioned before, the YouTube user, asked for plastic sounds and didn't specify, so I'm taking some creative license here. Lastly, I have, of course, something that has to appear in every ASMR video, probably ever. A Jack Skellington mask. Last year, my wife and I always tried to do a couple's costume. And last year she really wanted to be Sally, I think her name is. My wife is super, super creative and artistic, and most of her costumes have to do something with like all out makeup, and her Sally makeup was so good. I copped out and just bought this like $5 plastic mask that I strapped over my head. And I wore a t-shirt that had Jack Skellington's like tuxedo on it. We did look really cool, but she looked better. I also think I bought this like a day before the Halloween party. I think I was planning on doing my own makeup originally, and then I realized that makeup doesn't look good on a beard. Like especially flat white makeup, you'll always see your beard. So I scrambled and ran to a Halloween store and just bought this last minute. A super random thing. I think one of the most distinct smells in the world is the inside of a Halloween mask, like the rubber latex ones. Correct me if I'm wrong, or tell me if you think differently, I guess. And also, this is the most random thing, but I think one of the most distinct tastes is the water shot into your mouth from a water gun. I've always thought that those things, those two, like really stood out to me for some reason. And those are all of the plastic things that I have for you today. Maybe I'll just tap on my camera lens cover. Ooh, that sounds really good actually. These pinchy things that make it clip into place, they rattle a little bit when you tap on it. That actually sounds really good. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video and all of the plasticky sounds that I had for you.